I had been with this club for a very long time, performed so well for them. And the year that we were going into big nets, my coach had told me, you're too small to play in a big goal. And I got released from that team. After playing there for so many years, I grew up with those girls, and that was my first time. And obviously, as a young kid, I'm like upset about it. I vividly remember the phone call my dad had with my coach. And listen, he's never been one to hold back. So he was giving it to him because he was like, this doesn't make sense. My dad's like, she's never had an issue. Maybe short girls can get down to the ground quicker. And at a young age, they're not exactly shooting high yet. And from there, I will say that every time that I've been cut from a team or left a team, I think the next team that I go to has always been a level up.
It's nice to welcome Zeeyana Jivraj today to The Breaking Show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you coming here today and sharing with us your story on how you started out from the early days as a child, playing soccer in community settings, and how you navigated through your regional qualifying days, to your college days, to your days traveling to Portugal, and your way into being a pro soccer player. Most importantly, is not just that journey, but the journey of a person who, in so many ways, has been told that the goals were too big for you, and how you're turning out to tell the goals how big you are back. First of all, soccer has been it's the first sport I ever played.
Yeah, it is for a lot of people.
Is it? Okay,
yeah.
You get that a lot?
I thought
I was special saying that, so I'm not special. Okay, fine. But I still love the game.
Yeah.
And so, but obviously, it's one thing to love a game, as a recreation. We play, we have fun as kids,
Yeah.
The joy, the social aspect of it. And even later on, if you play even at any sort of a level, if you want to call it, the athletic competition is nice. That's cool.
Yep.
Is that how it started for you?
Yeah, it always starts recreationally, I think, for everyone. My entire family played soccer, though.
Okay.
So it started with my dad.
Okay.
And then my dad got all of us into it. So there's 5 kids, but 4 of us played.
Okay.
Me, my sisters, and then it started because in our religion we have a tournament every single year, starting from 6 years old and going all the way up to over 60. So it started there, fun, recreationally. I was actually competing in gymnastics and soccer at that time.
Okay.
But I had to decide when it came to competition which one I was going to pick, because obviously it would be getting serious. So I couldn't dedicate my time to both.
How old were you around this time? Were you 6 or what? Well, you said from 6. So I just started
About 8, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was starting to get into competitive, which is kind of early now that I think about it. But
Right.
yeah, picked soccer. I had a lot more friends in it. My sisters were doing it. My family was doing it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay.
And then from there, it just kind of took off.
So when you were 8, were you a natural? Were you always playing goalie?
So I started as a central defender.
Okay.
And I guess when you're young, everyone kind of just gets thrown into net. It wasn't weird that I ended up being good at it because my dad was a goalkeeper.
Okay.
So I think he was probably ecstatic that I wanted to pursue the same position as him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he
Which
was
dad
super
wouldn't
happy
be?
about it. Now he's living through me because he didn't get the opportunities to, kind of go pro and stuff. So
Okay.
he's loving it.
So
He
you
was my
were
coach.
so you were playing D with your dad coaching.
I was playing defense, not with my dad coaching.
Oh, okay, you were just
Once
playing-
I started in net, he became my goalkeeper coach, basically.
Why not?
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
got
yeah.
all this experience and knowledge
Right.
he wants to pass down.
Right.
Who better to?
Right.
So-
Who better? I think a
lay it
lot of
all
athletes
pressure on.
kind of know. Yeah.
No. I'm just saying, right? So what a I don't know. Is prodigy the right word to call you? You're soccer prodigy. Your dad played at an advanced level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you've got not just a coach, but somebody who really cares for you personally.
Of course, yeah.
Just to give you his all, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
tells you all the small little things sometimes that coaches don't have time to tell you.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's a huge, I was about to say blessing. Yeah, but it is.
No, yeah,
It's
for
a
sure.
gift. And this happened since that age. But what I'm wondering about for you, Z, is when you're out there playing as a kid, yeah, you're having fun. Because this never happened to me. I was not great. did you start seeing the difference between you and, like, sometimes there's a gap. I know this when watching players at a young age.
Yeah.
I coached as well, and I still do, and I see sometimes some big gaps. And I wonder what it must be like to be that kid.
I think at a young age, I actually, the gap happened kind of early for me. So I was used to being like a standout at a very young
Right.
age. I think part of it helped that it was my dad that was coaching me. So
Oh, you
that
got to
was-
do the hard part. You got to still go on the field.
I don't know where that separation really happened at such a young age, but when the first season I ever played in net, I ended up winning an award through a club that I was playing for best goalkeeper from ages 8 to 18 in the club. Wow. But I think it was deemed by who had the most shutouts, which is like most games where they had 0 goals against.
Right.
So I think that was like the beginning of my career. And then from then it took off, and I loved the challenge. It was a very different position. People say it's a bit lonely because we kind of train separately from the players. So our relationship is very different with our team.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love the position.
My son plays goalie.
Oh, does he?
But in hockey.
Okay.
And I say it all the time. They're a different breed, goalies.
Oh, yeah.
But they have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be a different breed.
I mean, you're putting your head where people's feet are meant to be. And
right? It's a different psychology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Altogether. And a goalie has to be like, if a forward misses a shot, big deal.
Right.
If a defenseman, even like someone gets by you, there's still another line.
Exactly.
But for goalies, you have to be so, I feel like your psychology has to be, okay, one went in, okay, shake it off, get back on.
Right.
Because if you get into that for one moment, it shows up a lot more on goalies.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that was a struggle at a young age, I think.
Yeah.
The idea of getting scored on. And
Yeah.
You're the last man. That's
Yeah.
literally your job is to keep the ball at the net. And
Yeah.
I think when I was young, I was pretty emotional. And whenever I would get scored on, a little tear would drop. It was.
Why not?
I mean,
it means you care.
It does, yeah. And it's funny. I was actually just talking about this at training with my friends today, that we're happy. Like, we look back now and we're happy about it, but we would dread after we played a bad game. Like, we know we're about to go in that car and our dad's about to give it to us.
Really?
Tell us,
Yeah.
but I'm thankful for it because I think his feedback pushed me to become the kind of player I am today. So
you were playing recreationally at that time.
yep.
And obviously
Technically.
competitively,
Yep.
but not yet pro.
Correct.
And you're getting invited to go play, obviously, then in like longer radiuses away from home, right? From the home club, and maybe even different clubs or different leagues, right?
Right, yeah.
When you first started, do you remember like when you first went to like the next level?
I do. And the reason that I remember it so well is because nobody would have thought, but at a very young age was the first time I ever faced any type of adversity in my sport. So I had been with this club for a very long time, performed so well for them. And the year that we were going into big nets, my coach had told me, you're too small to play in a big goal.
Love that.
So, and I got released from that team. After playing there for so many years, I grew up with those girls, and that was my first time. And obviously, as a young kid, I'm like upset about it. There's so many more options, though. And one thing I can
Is that
say,
what you said to yourself? There's so many more options.
oh no, when I was young, I'm sure I shed a bunch of tears. I probably didn't even understand what was happening.
I've been cut from a team. I remembered the first day I got cut, and I was
just-
like,
yeah.
I hate you, coach. Can you? I know. I was like, I'm
no,
gonna
that
go
was
scratch your
feeling.
car up.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I never want to see you again. I hate you. I was feeling that.
Yeah, I vividly remember the phone call with my dad had with my coach, and listen, he's never been one to hold back, so he was giving it to him because he was like, "This doesn't make sense." Like, okay,
So what was the coach's?
it was you're too small to play in a big goal, and that's just exactly what it was. And my dad's like, she's never had an issue. Maybe short girls can get down to the ground quicker. At a young age, they're not exactly shooting high yet. So, and from there, I will say that every time that I've been cut from a team or left a team, I think the next team that I go to has always been a level up.
Right.
Always been a level up.
But before that, you don't know. At that
Of
age,
course,
you don't know.
No,
right?
of course not. No.
So, what did Z 1.0 or 1.2, whatever? what did she do then? Like,
The only thing you could do, move on, look for another team, and
did you just shake it off like that in a day or two?
I don't exactly remember at that age, it was a pretty young age. I think I must have been 12 years old.
Yeah.
Because that's when you go into the big nets.
It's the first time you've been cut.
Right. Oh, I know I shedded a few tears. I was a very emotional kid.
No, I'm not. That's for sure. But like, what I'm wondering
Next
is
steps.
how like, it sounds like, when you describe it, it took you 2 seconds to say it, but it's not 2 seconds long.
No, of course not.
It's weeks and sometimes months.
Right.
That it lingers in in a child's mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
you also, like, you've never experienced this, so you're still navigating how to process this.
Right.
Look at sure, you have a great coach in your father to kind of help you through that.
Right.
But you still got to do the lifting, and it is an emotional lifting that you have to do at that stage. But that's the kind of stuff that really is the beginning, I feel, of the strength that you develop, right? It's
Right.
the emotional muscles, let's just say, you're exercising.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't happen in a day. So for the next few weeks, I mean, if you can think back right now, and if you could think back to then and think like, but then it went from like this, to like, okay, calm it down.
Right.
So was it time that just passed? Was it, like, what helped you remedy that? Was it like a comforting voice from a coach or your father or
Yeah.
sister?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be a mix of it all, but one thing that I do think contributed to my success a lot, I have a twin sister.
Okay.
And I have a sister that's a year younger than me.
Wow.
But whenever we go to any teams, we all go together. So you kick one, you basically kick all three, right?
Jivraj girls.
The Jivraj sisters. They call us the
Sisters, right?
triplets. We're
Right.
not triplets, but they call us the triplets. I at least had my sister stay with
Wow,
me to go to
okay.
the next team. So we both go to the next team. And
So wait, you got cut, but your sister got cut also?
she didn't get cut. But
Oh, she didn't play net.
if you cut one, you cut both. And it
Oh,
was
is
kind
that
of like
how
we
it
were
was?
a package deal. Well, you
I gotta
think
ask
about
her
it
how
too.
she felt about that. You get cut, and I gotta leave.
I mean, you think about it like, I mean, we have two parents and there's 4 kids playing soccer. So
Of course.
there's no
It's a
way that
package
we're
deal.
going to be able to get to every single team if we're all playing for different teams. So
course.
it kind of, and my dad was livid with the situation. So
Yeah.
it was easy to be like, well, I'm taking all my girls and we're going to the next place. But
Okay.
really every single team I kept transitioning to, it was never like
What is that
decided to
movie
leave.
with like Serena Williams and Venus Williams?
Oh, yeah, that one that just
Sir,
came out.
What was
Yeah.
that? Sir something.
I don't know what it's called, but I did watch it.
Like,
Yeah.
for a second, I just had a flash of that. Like,
Yeah.
the dad
Kind of
really standing up
actually.
for his girls.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, that's exactly what it was. And he was very like strict about like, this is what I want for them, right?
Wow.
But then I go to the next team and we have like an opposite situation where
Was it a week later, a month later? The next
it
season?
must have been pretty soon.
Okay.
We didn't want a lot of downtime.
Same season?
Probably the same season.
Okay.
Yep. We go to the next one.
Okay.
And so the national system in Canada works as like regional, provincial, then national. But if you don't
Okay.
get scouted for regional, you can't move up to provincial and
Okay.
so on and so forth. So when you're young, the regional scouts come out to your games.
Okay.
You play, they see a standout, jot the name down, invite them out. At the time, me and my twin sister were playing for a team, and for some reason, I think it was the coach's daughter had played the same position as my twin sister.
Okay.
My twin was very talented as well, like very physical at a very young age. So I think that was her like standout point.
Right.
And for some reason, the coach decided that the two of us would be benched for the game that the scouts were coming out for. My dad, we weren't well versed in this realm
Right.
because my dad had never gone through it. So we missed the regional call-up and could never make provincial or national because of that. But I'm sure if we knew it at that point, we would have done a little bit more to get into that. So that just led to us leaving that club. I go to the next club. Amazing. Loved the club, loved the team. We're doing very well. I'm performing well. We win Ontario Cup semifinals.
Provincial? That sounds provincial.
It is, but
Oh.
it's as a team, it's like a club provincial tournament as opposed to like Ontario versus any of the other
I see,
provinces, right?
okay.
So it's in all of Ontario,
Okay,
the best
okay, got it.
team. Semifinals, finals,
Wow.
I make some penalty saves, we get into finals. I make some
Wow.
penalty saves, we win.
I want to
So-
ask you about penalty shots, but later.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about that.
Okay. So my coaches are thrilled with me. Listen, she doesn't even need to come to the tryouts. She has a spot on the team, no problem. We're not like that. My dad's like, no, of course she's going to the trials. I go to the tryouts. Everything's great. We get a call. Listen, due to unforeseen circumstances, your daughter doesn't have a place on this team.
Oof.
And that was the first time we realized how much politics came into play in the Canadian game, in Canada.
Yeah.
And it was just it was just a matter of a parent giving some money to the club, and this player couldn't be let go. So
Yeah.
got to keep her around.
Yep.
And I will say I was very spoiled when I was young.
It doesn't happen in just sport. It happens
Everywhere, I'm
everywhere.
sure. Yeah.
But when it happens in sport, and it happened like, because in sport it's like either you scored a goal or
Exactly.
you didn't,
Yeah,
or
you
you
got
stopped the
stats
goal
to
or you
look
didn't.
at,
You got
yeah.
stats. So it's a lot more. If it seems like you could just be objective, or you could talk about like a player's fit with the team, or chemistry levels.
Yeah.
But when all of that is going right, and then it's that, then yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
Anyway, you were saying.
that happened.
Yeah, so somebody gives a sponsor and
Right.
you don't get on that team.
Right. So
Now, this was again a provincial,
this was just a regular club team again.
right?
Still at like a decently young age, not super young, not 18 going to school. But that's when I ended up after that. I think we
This is
kind
at
of
a
just
tryout, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think at that point we had just given up on the club system.
And where were you, like, school-wise? Like, how old were you at this point?
Must have been just at the end of elementary school, right about to go into
Oh
high
my
school.
gosh. So
Yeah.
this is still quite young.
Yeah, right. But that was a lot of my journey was
Wow.
there until I think we were like, okay, we're done with the club system. Someone had recommended an academy, and academies are a lot more involved. You're training every single day, multiple hours a day.
Right.
So we ended up going to an academy, and I think that's where we saw the most development. It was pretty much an all men's academy, but there was a few girls, but I think we got so good because we were playing against boys all the time.
Okay.
And as a goalkeeper, I would get to train with the younger boys, my age girls, my age boys, and the older boys. And I could keep up. So they had me out there all the time. And
Nice.
I think I credit a lot of my development to that academy. And that was all through high school. And then that's when more political issues. And then
Wait, so hold on a second.
I leave the club system to go to academy. And yes, I do come across kind of the same issues.
So isn't that interesting? Because I feel like like I just said, I think it's everywhere.
It
And
is,
you can't escape it. And whether you're in sport, in industry,
No.
we were just talking about corporate with somebody else.
Right.
It happens. While you can look back on it today and just say, oh, it's politics. And then,
Yeah.
you just got to deal with it if that's where you want to stay or play. But as a young kid going through it, I mean, I look at you and still see you're a young kid, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm just an old person, but like, you've matured a lot through it, obviously more than a lot of other young people going through this. But at that time, that's still young to be facing this. A lot of kids, don't you think, or have this feeling of it's not fair.
Of course. Yeah, that's the
So
first thing
why
you tell yourself.
try? And they just get disheartened, I guess is the word.
For sure.
Like the heart breaks.
Of
And when
course.
the heart breaks, motivation, morale, you could be great at something. You just don't want to do it anymore because it sucks, that feeling.
Oh, and it happens to so many players.
Did you feel it?
For sure.
Yeah?
For sure. Easily. I mean, there was things that...
So there are days you don't want to play this game you love anymore.
Of course. I always tell people if I ever quit, it wouldn't be because I wasn't good enough. It would be because of the politics associated with the sport. And especially at the level that I'm at now, I mean, it's only worse. It doesn't stop.
Well, the higher you go, the higher the challenge. But it's amazing, right? Like this is lovely to hear you say something like this, because you would think, maybe you thought, hey, all I have to do is be a better soccer player. Or maybe all I have to do is play a good soccer game, and the world will work like that.
Yeah.
And when we find out that there's more to this whole thing than just my abilities and the merit and the value that I bring to the table, like this,
Right.
there's some and it happens to so many. I remember that feeling. There was like a rage,
Oh, for sure.
and I was like, forget this. I didn't use the word forget, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you actually get to that? Do you remember if you ever got to this? I'm out.
I
I'm just
honestly
curious.
don't think I got to that point
That's
until
amazing.
college.
Okay.
So my college experience, I ended up on a full ride. I ended up signing very
What do you mean
late,
full right? You mean like
a full scholarship, completely paid
okay.
for, 100%. Very rare.
Right.
Very blessed, very lucky. Part of the reason I didn't leave the school that I was at when I feel as though I should have earlier. I got in there. A lot of the time as a freshman, you don't play. When it's your first year, it's very normal. You're young, especially as
You're
a
like on the
goalkeeper.
bench, you mean? Or
Yeah.
you don't play as in you're not on the team?
No. You're just on the bench. You're training. You're doing
Got it.
everything, but you're probably not going to play.
Okay.
I was lucky enough that I was getting to play before we went into conference games. So how soccer works in college is you'll play a variety of non-conference games first,
Okay.
and then you'll play conference games. But all of them count towards your overall.
Okay.
And so we were kind of going back and forth. And my freshman year, I was told because the girl that came in was older and had more experience, she would be playing.
Sure.
No problem.
Yeah.
I had been warned about this before I got there.
Yeah.
Cool. I could deal with that. I think the issue in my freshman year came was when there was a little bit of relaxation from the goalkeeper who was playing first because she knew, like, oh, this is my spot.
Right.
So I don't really have to. And I'm in there working my
That
butt
happens
off
with pros.
every day.
That happens everywhere.
You know what I mean? I'm in there working my butt off every day, but I know it's not really for anything because,
Yeah.
I mean, he picked the goalkeeper and that's just how it is.
Right.
Then I'm like, I'll stick around. Next year will be better. And every year I told myself, the next year will be better. Next year will be better. And it just never really got better. My sophomore year, it was COVID. I actually tore my meniscus when I was training over the summer. So the season being moved to spring was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it means I wouldn't miss my season. So I'm thinking
you
this
got
was
time to
God's
recover.
plan.
Right.
Like, oh,
When things align, right?
Yeah, like I tore my meniscus. This absolutely sucks, but it's COVID, so I'm not really missing out on anything.
Right.
So that was something like a little bit of adversity I faced, but I was like, oh, no, it's cool. Then the spring, it wasn't much of like a season, so it was kind of just like everybody would be playing. My junior year comes around. I'm starting. I'm playing amazing, playing all the hard
Play
teams.
in the game?
In the games, yep,
Okay.
yep,
in
yep.
another school or the same
Same
school?
school.
So
I
you
had
get the shot.
Yeah, I get
Okay.
it. But we're playing huge teams, big teams, and I was going to like a D1 mid-major. So I'm taking
I don't even know what that means.
Division One,
Okay.
the highest division you can play in college soccer.
Okay.
Mid-major, like middle of the ranks. Not a huge school, not thousands and thousands of kids, but around like 20,000
So
kids
that's
in
how
my
they're
school.
divided? Okay.
Yeah, so we're considered like a mid-major.
Okay.
But we're playing top schools, big schools.
Okay.
So obviously I'm going to be very, very involved. And we play 2 games a week. So after
You going to school at the same time?
Yes.
I mean, like your full course
yeah,
load.
full course load. I was actually pre-med with a minor in chemistry.
What?
So I didn't take it easy on myself at all.
Wow.
I'm in all my very difficult classes. That's also another reason I didn't leave. Loved my professors, had a really good relationship with them.
That's great.
And
So you're on fire.
oh yeah, I'm living life. Everything's great. And
It's
then
a great view from there.
yeah, it is, and you finally think like, okay, like everything's good. Like I've gone through it all, but now I'm
You're
like
starting to
finally
imagine
settled
Sports
in.
Illustrated cover.
I don't know about all that, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah?
And I always wanted to play professionally.
Right.
So this was just helping me get there, right? But I
Which
ended
year
up,
was this?
this was my junior year, so it would have been 2016, no, that's way too young. No, 2018 is when I went to college.
Right.
It would have been 2020, 2021.
Now, did you ever, while you're going through this, look at other pro players ahead of you, say like in maybe Team Canada, or were there people you were like following, looking at, seeing yourself being maybe like the goalkeeper for Team Canada, or
Oh, yeah.
do you have people that you were tracking, seeing yourself, visualizing that's my path, that's where I'm
Of course.
going?
Yeah, for sure. There was a national team goalkeeper at that time, Hope Solo.
Okay.
One of the best female goalkeepers, I think, hands down.
Right.
a little bit crazy, and that's why she
Well,
actually got.
goalkeepers are a
We
little
have to be a
crazy,
little, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, yeah, I loved her style of play, loved how aggressive she was. Kind of wanted to embody her a little bit. I also took some points from like the men's side. I always did projects on Gianluigi Buffon and Iker Casillas. Loved them. And obviously, Hope Solo was playing at the national level, so that's obviously something that I wanted to do. I was always looking up to that.
On your way here, you mentioned your father being somebody who got you off to a great start
Yeah.
and was a big impact, a positive impact. Did you ever run into other goalkeepers or players that were ahead of you on the timeline, right? Or in level in
Yeah.
terms of their achievement, and talk with them? What were you drawing from those people? What were they saying to you? What were you asking them about?
You know what? I actually wish I had more conversations with goalkeepers specifically.
Yeah.
In the academy, there were a lot of people that went off and played pro.
Okay.
And when they came back,
Right.
they would talk to us
Right.
about the.
What would you be asking them? What would they be saying?
I mean, what's it like? What do
Right.
you do? What's
Right.
what's the day to day? And you're kind of just looking at them in awe.
So
Like,
you never
I want
asked,
to do this one
how's
day.
the politics?
No, I mean that's
Okay,
not
I'm just
really
wondering.
something. No, that's never
It never
anything that I
comes up,
thought
does
of.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until it really happens to you
Right.
at a high level, you think like, oh, surely when I go off to college, they're just gonna be playing the best of the best. Like that makes sense. They're also pretty much paying me to be there. Like why? I'm the only girl on the team on a full ride.
Right.
Why would I sit the bench? That's a waste of money, right? Like surely you would think. But I end up playing a bunch of games. Too many games, my body is not happy. So I have to take a week off. But when you take a week off, you miss 2 games because we
Right.
play on like a Wednesday and a Sunday. So
Right.
you'll end up missing 2 games. And that was kind of the end of that season for me because I missed 2 games and my coach decided, well, that's it for you for now because we want to give the other goalkeepers a chance. When I was a freshman,
it was a window that just like expanded into like a wall. And
exactly, and it's nothing I can do.
Right.
And we had so many goalkeepers at that time that there's so many people to go around before you get back to me.
the rotation, right?
So, I mean, it was weird that his philosophy changed because in the beginning is we want one goalkeeper to stick with all season.
Got it.
And then we want to give everyone a chance. So that was weird for me. But actually, the previous year, we had lost every single game and I hadn't played yet. He puts me in net against the #1 team in the conference at the time. And I mean, surely he's thinking, she's not going to do anything.
No, he wasn't thinking that. I asked him. He said he was not thinking that. I checked.
One thing about me, I thrive under pressure. Love pressure.
Wonderful.
Love a high pressure environment. Love it.
So you're going into this game.
I'm going in thinking, this is my shot to
I'm
show
going
him
to- yeah.
that I deserve to be playing the rest of the season.
Right. That's the right. That's it.
So I go and I play and I do just that. I have an
Wow.
amazing game. We hold them at 0-0. And then I win Defensive Player of the Week.
Wow.
Go on to win all conference honors, but I don't play for the rest of the season after I win Defensive Player of the Week. Which was like, okay, well, how much more can I do? Right? So the next year, whatever, I get injured. It doesn't come back to me for a while.
Right.
Whatever. Senior season comes around, kind of same situation. I'm playing really, really well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When somebody gets injured at that level, right? Like,
Yeah.
though it was just a week, do you feel like, especially for goalies, right? Like there's this like momentum
Yeah.
and a break in that momentum. Is it like sometimes like, now I'd love to hear from just your point of view. Do you feel like you can come back and be that exact same player that just left before the injury in your own mind? Or are you saying, I need a little bit more game time to kind of get back to that height, if you will? I'm not maybe saying it the right way, but your confidence level in your own abilities, you're still the same person.
Right.
It was only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But do you feel that? Is that a real thing?
100%.
Oh.
And I've gone through it so many times because I've actually had 3 knee surgeries in total.
Okay.
And every single time you come back from a break, whatever it is, I felt like I was very prone to injury at that point. And you kind of start not giving up, but you're like, again,
Right.
why me again? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you want to think that it's happening for a reason, but honestly,
So that was happening.
of course. And when you come back, it takes some time to get that self-confidence back.
So-
And I actually just had to go through it right now where
Okay.
I'm I got out for a month. I was out for a month, and I come back into the game, and I don't feel like the same player that I've been. And it's a month. It's honestly not that long. It feels like it should be like you're riding like riding a bike. You know, they say like if you don't ride a bike for a long time, you hop on, you should be good to go.
Right.
And it feels like it should be that. But
You're the
there's so
same
many
height, the same
technical-
weight. You're
Not the same
mind.
weight. But,
Oh, right.
but
So you
it's more
notice
of the
details.
technical aspect
It's
of
details.
the game. It's more of the technical aspect. I think you work on it so much for so long, and when
Yeah.
you come back, it's just not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I've been back now for a month and a half, or whatever the case is, and now I felt myself slowly getting better, bringing the
Can I
confidence
ask you?
back. Yeah, of course.
How did you then, when you had that, like two points where you mentioned, one is the why me. It happens to everyone, I think, but when it happened
Yeah.
with you, the why me, how did you then come out of that why me? What think about it. Like, I'd love to understand that. Like, was it just time that passed, or was it like a conscious thought that you had to say to yourself?
Yeah. It's happened so many times in my life
Right.
with the sport that I feel like I've always kind of had to pull myself out of it.
How?
Sometimes it's worse than other times, but
What do you say?
I mean, the people around me do help a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
What do
positive
they say?
feedback and good affirmations.
Okay.
You're amazing. You're meant to be here. Like
Right.
you just need a chance. You can show them. You'll get your opportunity. It always happens. My dad always, you're gonna get your chance. You're gonna get your opportunity. And so
And then
it's holding
then-
on to that
then
hope.
the rebuttal to that is like, you guys always say that, and then it happens again.
No, and that's exactly what I say. But
And
it's
then
like
what do you say then?
you're
to
you're
you?
my dad always says, I send you all these people, the same thing happens to them, all these professional goalkeepers, they this keeps happening to them, and then they eventually get their big break. But you need to keep going, because if you stop now, then how are you ever going to get your big break? And I love the sport far too much to stop right now. Every time I come back home and I play, I'm playing with a group of pros that are men. Love playing with them. Great challenge, so much fun. And I remember how much I love the sport. And I'm so deep into it, I just know that I can't stop. It's just, you got to keep going. Like, I want to do it for all the short goalkeepers that think that they don't have a chance. And, you know, I want someone who looks like me to be up at that level, so a little girl can believe that she has the ability to do it too. You don't have to look a certain way or portray a certain image to be up there. Like, even sometimes I tell myself, like, I look at the pros and I feel like nobody looks like me. Like, in my stature and my build, even sometimes my skin color, I think maybe I'm not meant to be there. But I want to make it so that I can show those people that you're meant to be there.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you were saying, I interrupted you, but I feel like along the line, it happens. What's wrong with, there's something about the circumstance that we look at.
Yeah.
At least I used to. Something about the circumstance, but then there's something about myself that I question.
Yeah.
So you can talk about the circumstance that, hey, there was a sponsor or whatever.
Yeah.
But when it gets down to like, it's not the circumstance, it's me. That's harder, I feel.
For sure.
Do you think?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so that's a harder fight. And so when you're grappling with that, with your own, it's like you against you, really.
Always. Yeah.
Right? So when you're you against you, your dad said his piece. Your twin's done her part.
Yeah.
Everyone around you's done that part. What part is it like in your struggle against yourself in that moment
Yeah.
that you feel like, is there a go-to for you? Is there a go-to technical, is there like a move that you can, like you go to this? You've been through it a few times.
Yeah.
What's your go-to like when you're there against yourself?
Like coming back from something.
Yeah,
you
like
mean?
when you're like it's in your head now, right? There's the psychology. What's your winning move? Like you're a goalie. You read the situation, you read body languages, there are tells, and then there's something that inside your mind you're like, do this, right? Like move like this. It's literally you're thinking these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very, very intent, like the strong intentions there.
Right. Right.
So you have that technique down. You understand it. You use that when you're there grappling with a thought that has nothing to do with circumstance. That it's a battle against, like, yeah, like you're you're weak, your body, you're this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not circumstantial. It's you.
Yep. Yep.
What do you say to yourself?
I mean, I always tell myself, okay, well, for one, I tell myself you just have to be the best. Like, you have to be so good that they can't say you're too short because you're just way too good.
Good.
Or they can't be like, oh, politics, because they'll say, screw politics, she's amazing. She's a once in a lifetime talent. Like, I just tell myself you have to get that good. And I feel like as the years gone on, one of the things that has changed a lot in my character as a goalkeeper is my self-confidence. And when I know that I'm about to have to make a save or I'm about to do something, I'm always telling myself in my head, you got this. You've done it before, you've got this. Lock in. Like, just constantly repeating. And one of the things that I do before I play a game is I'll watch my highlight tape. Because I like to remind myself, you're capable.
Yeah.
You can make, there's not one save in the world that you haven't made before. So if you've made it once before, you can make it again.
100%.
So that's kind of my process.
I feel like I want to go out there and play goalie right now, and I want you to take a penalty shot against me because I will save it. Honestly, it's inspiring.
I mean, there's a difference also between motivation and discipline, right? And motivation is
Yes.
sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes not. You know what I mean?
100%.
Whereas discipline is you got to get up and do it every single morning, and that's kind of how it becomes over the years. It's not really. Yeah, I want to be the best. You don't wake up and think I want to be the best every single day. Like, it's not reasonable. It's
Right.
not. I woke up this morning, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, and it happens. I've been doing a lot. But you just know you have to go and you have to do it. And especially the days that you don't want to show up and you show up, that's when you feel like, and every time I finish a workout, I'm never like, oh, I wish I never did that. That felt great. I feel great. The day's going to be great.
Isn't that crazy? I see that going to the gym. Getting there is the hard part.
That is the hard
And then
part.
right after that, I'm like, why did I think that I feel so much better?
Yeah. You
But
just
I
gotta do
love
it.
how you just said it, and I haven't heard it that way before. I think that's amazing. It's sometimes motivation and it's sometimes discipline.
Yep.
And discipline, when you don't have motivation, discipline trumps motivation.
Absolutely.
So what do you do to build discipline?
That's tough.
What do you do? Like, I mean, you do it. You obviously have it.
Yeah, I
So
don't
then
know
what
what
do
I
you
do to
do?
build it. It's just I just want something. You just want something so bad.
That's
like,
motivation.
I guess.
I'm just challenging you, man. So
This is
because
tough.
you're honestly, I'm learning so much here. When you say discipline, I'm only asking selfishly because I lack discipline some days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I gotta do
I
to
mean-
just get my discipline up?
I think, and I don't mean to say this as like it's at a hit at you, but I really do think discipline is what separates the good from the great.
I agree.
So I don't know. It
How do you
starts
get
as
more
motivation.
discipline? You can't
just
go out there
have
and buy
to.
this.
You just have to wake up one day
You
and
can't go
decide.
buy motivation. You can go to somebody, say, tell me how great I am. You can watch a highlight reel. Discipline, you can't go out and buy. You gotta grow discipline yourself.
I think it's routine. Like you know how they say like so many times, if you do something so many times, it becomes a habit. You kind of build it into your you build it into your routine. You build into your routine healthy eating. You build into your routine. Okay, well, and I'm like a very structured person, so I like to do things at a certain time. And I feel like if I have routine, then that helps my discipline because it's like every day at this time I wake up. Every day at this time I do this. Every day at this time I go to the gym. And people say it can get repetitive, but
That's discipline.
it is. And the lack of repetition comes in what you're doing at training or what you're doing in the gym.
Yeah.
It can't be repetitive if I hit back and buys yesterday and I'm hitting a leg day today. So there's a little bit of difference in that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But you didn't say depending upon whether it's sunny or not. You know, you said, hey, this is what I do. You have an order to things.
Yeah.
And that all seems to align with discipline. So it's not just that you're disciplined about your soccer, you're just disciplined.
Yeah.
And I think I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like I fall down, and a lot of people fall down on discipline.
Yeah.
The motivation's there.
Yeah.
The discipline is not. So like it's so good for me to hear from a pro that is like a big difference.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know what, I think a lot of, at least the older folks, we say this about the younger folks, is that they're so like, their heart's not, they're fragile. Oh, it's tough. I don't want to do this. But here I see like,
one of the big things in management, for example, they talk about is motivation.
Yeah.
But one thing in management they don't often talk about is discipline.
Right.
And to tell people, whether they're players or not, if you're a pro, so some days you're not going to want to go to the office. Get up and go.
Yeah. You just have
And you're
to.
hearing this from a so you're proof.
Yeah.
It's a great philosophy, and I love how you said it. It's what separates the greats.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So let's go back. So you went into you made the save. The team that was number one in the conference.
Yep. Yep.
You were there.
Yeah. It's my senior season at this point. Kind of the same thing happens with my groin issues, and then I don't play again until my senior night, because every senior starts on senior night. My parents are there. Again, we're playing a big team. Hold another shutout, play great. My coach is like, this is the best I've ever seen you play. Now, if we win the next game, we make the conference tournament for my first time that I'm there.
Sounds like a movie. I want to
It sounds like a movie. It felt like a movie. I'm serious. Like, when I got there, I was like, this is so cool.
This is what they'll make in my movie. This will be this moment.
Oh, yeah, literally. Like, this is what you do it all for. So I'm thinking, my coach is like, I don't see why you wouldn't finish out the rest of the season for us. We get to the next game. He calls me over. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but
Look in the eye.
we're not going with you today. We're not going with you. Of course, I'm defeated. I mean, like, you just told me last week that I'll be finishing out the season for us. I just played great. Like, obviously, again, I'm defeated. But at this point, I can look myself in the eye and said, you did everything you needed to do. This is out of your control. But when you get the opportunity, you have to show out. And I didn't know what the case was at that point. I don't want to sit here and assume or say something.
Right.
Oh, it was this, it was that. Maybe he wasn't a fan of me. Whatever it was,
Right.
I didn't play. And then I played in my last game because it was the last game. Oh, spoiler, we didn't win the game. So we didn't make the tournament. And then I played in my last college game. And that's when, for the first time, I told you that I thought, maybe this isn't for me anymore. My college seasons did not go how I planned. I didn't think there would be anything out there for me because of how it went. And I didn't think anybody would be like, oh, yeah. Like, I didn't have the accolades, really. So
we're going to get to the pro part in a sec.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I'm curious to know now is, you just said it didn't go the way you wanted it to go.
Yeah.
For some people it did, right? So some people got picked,
Yeah.
and now they're going on.
Yeah.
And there's this feeling is there this feeling, I guess I should ask, that like time is now not on my side?
At that point, 100%. I was giving.
Well, why wouldn't you think like there's more time ahead of you?
I didn't really know. I didn't
Or is
really
that how
know
it
how the
works?
process worked.
Right.
So I'm thinking if I'm not going into the NWSL draft,
Right.
there's nothing else out there for me.
Right. So it is a real thought then.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know before that point that there's soccer overseas for women all over Europe, Asia, North America, South America. Like, there's soccer everywhere.
Right.
I just wasn't educated on
Yeah.
it. So then I thought, I'll just go to med school and throw the pro thing in the garbage, whatever.
I'll just go to med school.
I know. What
I'm
a
gonna
terrible
settle for
I'm
just med
sure my
school.
parents were
That sucks.
pissed.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I was preparing to do. I ended up getting an opportunity, though, to go play in England and continue studying to do my master's. And I would go play again on a scholarship. And then it was a great opportunity. I ended up going to England. I was playing with the school, and I ended up getting to train with Ipswich Town, who is on the women's side is in the championship. On the men's side is now in the Premier League.
Okay.
And it was an amazing experience. The first time I ever thought, wow, like, I'm part of a pro environment.
Wow.
The training level was amazing. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. And my coach that I was playing for at the University of Essex was like, you're amazing. I want to do everything I can to help you go pro.
Okay.
And that was like the first time that I kind of started really getting into it, trying to figure out, okay, how can I actually do this? And I ended up in a group chat called the Players Network. Shout out the Players Network, because it's a big group of a bunch of girls, and it's all girls that want to play overseas or are playing overseas. sharing their experiences about teams, about agents, about all this, because
Yeah.
contrary to popular belief, women actually have to go through a lot of stuff in professional soccer that you would never think. Everyone thinks it's butterflies and rainbows, but it's honestly not.
Okay, so you're making me want to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're doing this,
Yeah.
not me. What do you mean?
Okay, so depending on which countries you play in,
Right.
if you're not playing in the top countries for women, a lot of the treatment that we get as women overseas is extremely subpar. And me personally, I didn't.
What's up? Like,
Yeah, I'll explain it to you.
okay,
I don't.
You treat me like, I don't understand that.
Yeah. I don't want to play overseas just because I get to play soccer. Like, I also want to be treated well. I'm not like I'm playing to make a living as well as playing because I love the sport.
Okay.
So housing situations are sometimes terrible.
Right.
There's multiple girls in one room. There's mold in the houses.
Right. Okay.
The
living
wages,
conditions, right.
living conditions, terrible. Like
Okay.
I know some girls that have been in way worse situations than me. The wages are absolutely horrible in some places. A lot of teams don't pay on time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Really?
well, let's stay at that. There's just
Sounds
a
like
lot.
other professions actually, but like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you're actually in the situation, it's very different than just trying to describe it to people, because I never
Right.
think it could be as bad. But like, people send horror stories in this. Do not go here. I wanted to quit soccer. Like, there's people, they wouldn't help me leave the country. I had to go get external help to leave the country because they were basically trapping me there.
Okay.
There's,
Wow.
I mean, people getting other people places illegally. Like, it's just, there's so much in the women's game that it's just like, I don't even have the bare minimum. I was living better in college, and in college you expect to live
Right.
the worst that you'll ever live in your life almost.
Sure.
But it's just, there's so many things situationally that happen. The lack of resources, the lack of facilities. And like, for example, I was in Portugal playing for one of the lower teams, but you're expected to compete with some of the best teams in the country, in the world actually, when you don't have equal access to resources or anything at all, honestly. So, I mean, that's always tough.
Do you think though, I'm just hearing this for the first time.
Right.
And one of the thoughts that comes to my mind is, do you feel that that's like a part of a plan to filter who's serious to stick and who's not?
Yeah, I mean, I've even questioned whether I
Or
want to
not,
continue
or
doing
was it just like poor management? You know, like,
Yeah, no. I think that
I've
definitely
made
helps.
life difficult. I can say here, I've made life difficult for people,
Right.
to see
Will they stick
will
it
they
out?
stick,
Right, yeah.
or are they just here because they thought it was going to be rainbows and butterflies. No, really, because they
yeah.
come in all like, yeah, and I'm like, hey, this is tough what we do. You're seeing the nice cars, you're seeing the pictures, you're seeing the watches, you're seeing the glamour, but it's not. This is where it's made.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, sometimes people are chasing the glamour, so I want to separate them.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, let's see, can you actually like schlep it?
Yeah.
You know, how hard a grind are you willing to go through for this?
Yeah.
Because there are people who come from places that have had nothing. And so
Absolutely.
in those moments, even that, they're like, hey, I'm just getting a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it really that, like, I'm just curious. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I don't think it's purposeful, but I do think that it weeds out some more people for sure. And sometimes at the beginning of your career, you kind of have to accept the lower contracts and kind of have to fight through some issues.
Right.
For me, it takes so much for me to finally put my foot down. And that's why when I do, my family knows, like, okay, she's had enough. She's been through it. Like, they know how I am.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do have to look back and think, I deserve more. And my thing is, I'm never really concerned. I think there is always more out there. I think I'm meant to be in certain places, to be in certain places. And when I came back from Portugal,
You
I
are.
think Portugal's situation was meant to just humble me, bring me back down to earth, and make me extremely thankful. Because I get back to my house, I'm thankful to shower in hot water.
Right.
I'm thankful for a car on the driveway, a roof over my head,
Right.
family, people that I love around me. There's so many things that I came back and I was like, I'm so thankful for these things.
Right.
And now I feel like I'm finally in a place where
This has recently happened. Portugal.
yeah, this
How
was
long?
just I actually just left in the beginning of December.
Wow. Oh, so like very
Yeah.
recently.
Yep. So came
So
back
what's
and
the
been training.
difference? I wanted to ask you this. Like going from not being a pro to being a pro. Is
Yeah.
it like you just proclaim it? What does that mean? Like to say, "Hi, I'm now a pro." Like, what's the difference? What's the
I mean,
line that you cross? Signing a
technically,
contract,
it's,
like
yeah,
what?
signing a contract and actually getting paid to play.
Okay.
Technically, for me, this isn't the story for everybody because some people really are really locked in from college days, and I think I was to a certain extent, but I don't think it was till I went pro that I really locked in on that discipline part. And I would say the soccer is a true full-time job, and I don't mean a 9 to 5.
Right.
I mean every day, every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because
Yeah.
you're playing, you're training, you're eating,
Yeah.
you're taking care of your body, and that's like an everyday thing. And I
Yeah.
always tell
you don't just eat like between 9 and 5.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you're not, everything that you do is
Yeah.
important to how you're going to perform and your body and everything. And it's so funny. I always tell my family, they're like, "Oh, are you employed?" Like, I'm technically unemployed right now, but I'm like, "Well, working out is my job, technically,
Yeah.
because that contributes to my career." So I'll be like, "Well, I'm not unemployed. I'm not really getting paid to work out right now."
So forget about because the conventional, if a person looks at it like in that conventional way.
yeah,
So for starters, I don't think conventionally anyway. So when somebody says work, I'm like, what do you mean work? I don't work actually.
yeah,
This is not work to me.
Yeah,
Like what I
yeah.
show up and do every day
Yeah.
is not work to me either.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
yeah,
And I get paid to do this.
Exactly.
So yeah, you guys are working.
Right.
I'm having a great time here.
I'm living
and,
life.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna get paid for this too. So I have a very, very different outlook on what people refer to as working.
Right.
It's somewhere they go where they don't enjoy. I'm like, no, I love it, or I'm not doing it. So in your case, there's no contract. And so I see what you mean by technically you're working or you're considered a pro then. But once you go in that direction, that's what I was actually wondering more, is that your commitment level changed?
yeah.
Your discipline level changes? Like how exactly?
Yeah,
Right?
I just, like I said earlier, because of my height and all these external aspects, I always tell myself, like, you will get signed if you are the best that there is. Like, so you just need to go every single day and get to a point where you end up being the best there ever is so that nobody can, oh, but you're short. Oh, but this. Oh, but that.
There's this guy, Messi something or the other.
Yeah.
I must know that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know until my son told me that Messi actually even took growth hormones to get to this size. I don't know. It's something I just heard. I don't know how true it is. But that's one of the reasons I love Messi and players like that, because they're sitting there in what is otherwise considered giants games to them.
Yeah.
And look at them. So do you obviously you must, but now that you are here,
Yeah.
and it looks like you just turned pro, like what is it?
Like less than 2 years ago, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a pro though, now when you look back
Yeah.
at the kid in sort of high school, the kid in high school, and who you were in high school and who you were in college, and putting circumstances aside, would you say, how have you evolved? How are you different today as a player before, when you were, like, it sounded like you were always hungry, you were always hardworking.
Yeah.
You always had this sense of this fire in you.
Yeah.
How have you evolved as a player from that rec level to the regional to the provincial to the college?
Yeah, so I think the skill obviously gets better as you get older. And it's weird. When I was young, I was really good. I had a fire in me. I was weirdly really good. Then I went to a time where everybody's kind of starting to catch up to me.
Right?
You
You no
know?
longer,
So
the
you're
gap
not
is not
like-
as big.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
You noticed it.
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But then this starts showing in my lack of consistency in my games. And then the game changes as time evolves, where when I was young, the game of soccer for goalkeepers was pretty much just shot stopping. Now it's almost like it's like an 11th player. So I'm super involved with my feet. Distribution is very important.
Okay.
And I had focused so much on the shot stopping and the hands part of it that I was falling behind on the footwork part of it. So that's something that I had to get better at. And I think the one thing I think my separation happened in college from my freshman year to my senior year. And I never understood the whole, oh, she has more experience aspect of it. But I completely understand it now because my confidence and the way that I went into games and how I prepare for games now is so different than how I did as a freshman. And I honestly can say, like, I haven't really had a bad game.
I was just about to ask you that
knock
question.
on wood, but-
because I never heard about you having a bad game so far. Like, you've only had shutouts as far as I
Oh
can hear.
gosh, absolutely not.
So come on, you have never had a bad game.
No,
You're
yeah,
the
so-
first person I've ever met who's never had a bad.
Absolutely not. I've had plenty of bad games,
Yeah.
as does everyone. But
Exactly.
I will vividly remember as a freshman, my parents had come to watch me. It was
Okay.
raining. It's soaking wet. I get a shot. It's raining. Ball hits my hands, goes through my legs. And oh my God, I was devastated.
Right.
My parents are here to watch me. They came all the way from Canada. I was playing in Ohio, so not too far, but still, they came all the way to watch me play.
Yeah.
What? Like, how
how
does
do you
this
let that
happen?
in?
How
Yeah,
did
this is not you, right.
So
It's a shocker.
that I kind of think I'm only thankful for that moment because when I look at my senior year, and then I look back at that moment, I mean, it can happen to anyone, but I will say I'm thankful and I'm grateful that ever since my senior year of college, I feel like I have shown up in every single game. And yes, I still make mistakes, as does everyone. I'm only human.
Right.
But I don't feel like they're that bad or that common or occur that often anymore. And I think it's the way that I prepare myself and I come to the game and I have a level of confidence and I just tell myself, you're here because you're meant to be here. I'm not a super religious person, but I am very spiritual.
Sure.
So before a game,
That's where it all started, from what I hear.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, before a game, I'm always like, be with me, like help me get through this.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be here. I'm just telling myself, and then I lock in and I'm there. And I actually black out a lot in games. Like I don't remember games at all because I feel like I'm in a very different place when I'm in a game.
Sure.
Even people will be like, "Oh, did you hear me yelling for you?" I'm like, "No, I actually didn't hear
So
you."
you have other personalities? Is that what's now?
No.
We have to have other personalities. I think I have a game personality and I have a non-game personality.
Yeah.
But-
No, I'm a different person when I'm in a game than when I'm not, and it just has to be that way.
It has to be because it's not the same. You're on a field and there you're off the field.
Exactly.
It's very two
Yeah.
different situations. You got to treat them differently. Z, this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For sharing like that whole journey. What's your like? Where do you see yourself?
So there's a new Canadian league that's coming.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I have an opportunity to play in it. We're waiting to hear back, waiting to see. But I'd love to stay in Canada and play professionally. North America, even Europe, but like top clubs in Europe. I want to be in FIFA. That's what I want.
You know what I'm excited about? I'm going to tell you right now. We're sitting here, like to me, like there's a future somebody here who we're going to hear about one day. And I'm going to say, I got to sit with you like this close in proximity. I hope you never forget small people like us along the way.
Small.
Who you met.
Yeah.
But that's what I get a feeling of right now. That's exactly the feeling that I get. That
love
I'm
that.
sitting here next to somebody who is on their way to do something like amazing, who's going to
hope
be,
so.
it's not even a hope question to me.
Yeah.
With just listening to you, anybody who approaches their craft or their whatever they're after the way you're doing it, really, like what does that future look like, right? And these people who are here are good at what they do. They're professionals too. And that's I'm just like sitting here going, maybe one day
right? I'll be able to like, I'll be like, hey, D, Minu, can you find that video again? Like, can you find that recording of Z when she came and sat with us? And that's what I feel like right now, that you are on your way to like an amazing future.
Thank you.
And I feel so lucky that I caught you here when you had time for me, and I didn't have to go through your agent and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing this. Right here where you are, you know, it's like a station along the way.
Yeah.
When you were in your, you know, earlier days, high school and college, you know, there were times where you were like, I'm amazing. And now you look back at that person, you're like, okay, I see what the difference was, where I was and where I am.
Yeah.
And now you have an idea to draw on as to what you need to work on next. And you're talking about some of those things. So you're constantly self-improving. What would you say to, like, now, say someone else who, you probably have heard these stories, right? Like they, you know, you started by talking like it came up, politics, this, that, the other. I don't think that's going to stop you. I don't think that stands a chance against you, really. But for others, maybe they didn't have your talent. Maybe they didn't have so many shutouts, but they want. And what would you say to them, whether it's motivation or discipline or anything else, to have them keep going? Because I'm sure there's so many who didn't have the great start the way you had and turned out just amazing. What would you say to those who are behind you, who are struggling?
I mean, I still think that there's people that are way in front of me and have had a completely different experience and have had it much easier. For me, you just have to keep going. You have to. If you tell yourself it's something you have to do, you're going to have to do it. It's not like I want to do this. It's almost like it's a necessity. Like you have to do it. And that's kind of how I live my life. It's almost like you have to breathe, you have to eat, you have to go to training, you have to be great. Like there's no other option. It's kind of just something you tell yourself that I've grown. I feel like as I've grown, I've told myself there's no other option. It's almost unhealthy to a point where, like, if I'm sitting on the couch, I'm thinking I could be doing something better with my life right now. And it's just making use of every single hour of the day and getting better. If that's okay, you can sit on the couch, you can rest, but how are you making yourself better in the seconds that you're resting? Are you watching a video of another goalkeeper? Whether it's what to do or what not to do. It's just you need to use every moment of your time to better yourself. But at the same time, also take a step back sometimes, remove yourself from the game and treat yourself or let yourself have a little bit of fun. But stay disciplined, stay focused, and just remember there's the end somewhere in there. So.
And if it's not fair, what do you tell them?
Life isn't fair. Life is not fair. Man, that's probably the first thing I ever said to my dad. And every time we say that, it's life isn't fair, especially growing up with siblings. Well, why does my twin get that and I don't?
Right.
That's not fair. Well, life isn't fair. And we learned that at home, and I think I've carried that onto my life. So I think I attribute a lot of my success to my parents because of how they've raised us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I actually ask them every day, I'm like, I'm scared. Like, if I have kids, how do I raise them to be as disciplined or as great as some of my siblings are?
Yeah, there's a saying, the older you get, the smarter your parents look.
Yeah.
And
it's honestly very true.
It is very true. That's why it's there, you know? So
Yeah.
Thanks again. I feel like if we're lucky, we'll get to see you again.
Hopefully, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. There's other things that I really want to ask you about along the way and in your journey. But this was a great way for us to be able to see, you know, kind of like how you started and where you came from and how far you've come. This is amazing. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for bringing me out. I always love talking about my stories.